Bottom Line Sports Talk. I'm George Abraham. You know my partner Albert Campman. When we started King Football, we talked about the pageantry, the bands, the change of seasons. Bottom line now, Daddy, it's playoffs. And it's right around the corner. The computer rankings, we'll talk a little bit about some things, and then we'll go over these computer rankings. You always understood them a lot better than I because you've coached in Ohio.
Well, let's go through the teams that are really heading high, big time in the computer. Crestview, you beat the United 63-14, but more importantly in that game, Nick Blauer of Crestview became the all-time Rebels leading rusher, tallying 107 yards and a pair of touchdowns. Brookfield, the team in the area that we're banking on a lot, remains unbeaten, 49-13 over Edgewood. Ryan Mazur, that name comes up a lot.
Let me talk to you about him. I was out the other day and I ran into some people that have seen him play, and they were just raving. Not only is he a strong runner, he's got some speed. He runs a 4.5.
So that combination is why he's putting up 220 yards.
Right. It's no accident, is it?
No. And finally, Hubbard beat unbeaten Niles in a big way, 43-14. Darnell Tate of Hubbard came into the game and scored 3 touchdowns in that big win for Hubbard. And that leads us, George, into these computer rankings. And when we're in week 8, right now, every coach in the state of Ohio is looking for their team winning games, but they're watching the teams on their schedule because don't forget they get points for every team they've beaten. And they want those to add up in a hurry because you can make a big jump right now if every team on your schedule wins out the rest of the way.
So the teams you beat, you're rooting for them to win.
Big time.
And the teams that you're close to, you want them to lose.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So let's go Division 1, Region 1. In 6th right now is Austintown Fitch, and in 7th, Harding, and in 12th, Boardman, just waiting on the wings, still in the limelight. Division 2, Region 5, Howland at number 7. Division 3, we have Niles still at number 3, even after that defeat. And Hubbard at number 9, schedules count. There's proof right there. Region 11, Struthers still in 8th, with a record of 4-3. Once again, a tough schedule gives you a lot of points. In Division 4, we have Brookfield at 7-0 in number 1, and Liberty in 7th place with a 6-1 record. George, you can go into the Division 5 teams.
Well, you have Crestview at number 3 at 7-0. Then you have Ursuline. That's the fly right there.
Yeah.
People are looking and they're thinking,
so please.
we're not real crazy about playing Ursuline. They see that 4-3, but we know better.
Yeah,
we've seen this movie.
Yeah, Division 5. Geez, oh man, they can make mincemeat of these teams. No question.
Columbiana at 6-1, and Campbell right outside at number 9, waiting for somebody to stub their toe. South Range, and then Southern at 5-2 at 12. They'll need some help, right?
Need some help. Definitely.
All right. Now, how about Division 6? JFK at 6-1. Youngstown Christian at 5-1, ranked 6th, and then Western Reserve right at 8, and Latonia just waiting for somebody to stub their toe also.
Yeah, and so the computer rankings are big in the parents, in the community, and most of all in the coaches' houses this week. Let's look at this week's big games, and more importantly, the leagues. Howland at 3-0, and Niles at 3-1, still in the running. In the next league, Liberty is 6-1, plays Newton Falls. Campbell 4-3, plays Lakeview. Liberty 4-0, leading George at the
6-1 overall, 4-0 in the league.
Lakeview 3-1, and Campbell also 3-1. If Liberty and Lakeview both win out this week, next week could decide the AEC champ. Inner Tri-County, Crestview 4-0, and South Range at 4-0. We know that, George, every year that league comes down to the wire. It looks like it's going to happen again. In the Inner Tri-County, lower tier, Columbiana 4-0, Western Reserve 4-0, and Southern at 3-1. And still a couple games to go. They're going to decide that one. And finally, Warren Harding at 4-0, leading the Lake Erie League. What a change from last year when they struggled all year, George. They've really turned around under Coach Stevie Arnold.
You said, Stevie, going from the basketball to the football.
I wasn't sure how I would handle it. I think he's done a great job of delegating. I know he learned that in basketball, you can coach a lot more of your time spent at practice. In football, you better have great assistant coaches doing the work.
So that's a big belief of yours. You've talked about being active and feeling like you're more part of the game and such. But at a football practice, you just common sense is you can't be in all spots.
No, you can't. And most coaches feel very precise in one area. Either it's on the defensive side or the offensive side. What bothers me is a guy who has a defensive background and feels he has to take over the offense. Just because I think I'll try that. I think you should stay where your expertise is.
Let me ask you about that. That's an interesting point because I watched like a guy like this, the Ryan brothers. The guy that just looks like a slob on the sidelines for the Cowboys. The beard and the wild hair. And
Rex and...
but whatever his name is, Buddy Jr. or whatever.
Yes.
And I see him and I keep thinking, because they know so much about defense, wouldn't you think that they would know what might work against the defense or what gives them trouble? I remember one time someone was playing me a zone, like a matchup zone, and we did something in practice and I saw that it messed it up. This doesn't happen in football as much?
No, because the offensive minds are on that side of the ball are always one step ahead.
Okay.
That's and he's a great defensive mind.
Okay.
But he's spending all his time on film work on the defense. Over the other end, they're looking at the Jet defense saying, okay, we're going to throw this out this week, throw this out this week. This doesn't work. It's just too complicated. The game of football is much more complicated than any sport there is.
No, it's funny. I watch, though. It just is strange to me when a guy like Steve Spurrier, a Heisman Trophy winner, high octane, running gun, throwing all over. What's his team good at? Defense, running the ball, ground chuck.
That's because of recruiting. No question about it.
Okay.
He decided in the SEC that South Carolina SEC, not Florida SEC. Florida, he was getting the best players.
Okay.
South Carolina, he wasn't.
Now Alabama's still getting.
Yeah, they're all LSU and Alabama gets all the best players. And Georgia, all three of those.
Okay.
South Carolina started getting five-star recruits, and what Spurrier figured out was for me to be alive in the SEC, he put him on the defensive side of the ball.
Okay.
So you watch his defense play.
Oh, that's all you hear about.
Well, that's why he's winning. He's a smart guy.
So he's a smart guy for doing that.
Oh, yeah. He could not exist throwing the ball over the field against those Alabama defensive backs, the LSU defensive backs. You better be able to
He get his quarterback killed, Albert. If he tried that stuff that West Virginia does,
yes.
No, I'm kind of anxious. I'd like to see West Virginia and Alabama win out because I'd like to see that. Not talk about it. I want to see it on the film.
Right, exactly. Well, I saw once LSU and Oregon, and Oregon is the most high octane.
Okay.
I think they're more high octane offense than West Virginia, and LSU shut them down last year. They scored 13 points. So I think SEC's athletes are so fantastic that no one can even imagine that a 6'5", 270-pound guy can run. Like the Alabama.
Oh, that guy the other night on TV. I've seen a lot of people in my life. The guy, the defensive end for the Houston Texans.
Yeah, Watt.
They had told me that he could palm his helmet and he could let it go in midair and catch. You know how big they are and how heavy?
Yeah, exactly.
So he's a freak.
Yeah, he is. He's one of those freaks. And in the SEC, you got players like that all over the place. That like Timmons from the Steelers, 6'4", 260, and runs down running backs like they're little guys.
I get a charge when they run sideways in that league. Like a back will be running sideways, and there this big guy just reach out. He doesn't get the angle at all.
Run you right down. There's no
Now
chance.
we have to do this. We've been here when they were strong, so we have to talk a little bit about YSU. They go to the Fargo Dome, and they lay a gigantic egg. You can make any excuse you want. You can talk about turnovers. This happened. The weather, the wind blew. There was something. The bottom line is they didn't compete.
Yeah, and North Dakota State, you better have your A game even to be in the game, and they didn't. Like you said, George, they turned it over 3 times. When you give North Dakota State 3 touchdowns, that is almost giving the game away completely because you're coming as a two touchdown underdog anyway. So now that takes it to 35-0. Immediately, you're playing from behind.
Right.
You can't give them anything at North Dakota State.
No. And not to be critical of YSU, we're just stating the facts. This is probably the best team in the country on their home field.
Oh, no,
I mean, this wasn't.
There's no problem.
Okay, so then, I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah, but this is the biggest game of the year. Playing Illinois State this week. Illinois State and YSU. One of those two is going to stay home. There's 4 teams left in the top 25, and they're the 2. YSU at 8 and Illinois State at 14.
Okay, so and they're coming off a loss to Southern Illinois?
Yes. So
will this be a shootout, Albert?
Usually WSU usually is. You know, when they play that one, but against Southern Illinois, they didn't score. They got beat 17-0. So there's no guarantee it's going to be a shootout. I would think WSU wants it to be a shootout.
Okay.
I think Illinois State.
We take 35-33.
Yeah, exactly.
We just want to win this one.
Any way you can get it.
Right. Agreed. Okay. Now let's talk about baseball's winding up, and if there's one thing I've been critical of Bud Selig, the year he let the All-Star game end in a tie, and I mean, I've been all over him, you know, the phony selling of the team to his daughter when he owned it, yet he was one of, you know, the head of the Major League Baseball. But I will say this, there's been some excitement. When I'm up at 10 after 1, rooting for the Oakland A's, and who would think so? But they've gotten this part right. There's a lot of excitement.
Yeah, there is. And I changed one thing. I could not have a one-game playoff. If you did it next year, I'd say make the adjustment and make it a 3-game playoff.
Even for the wild cards.
Yeah, the first game, 3-game.
Well, what do we have now?
With the winning team.
Okay.
The better record, play all 3 games at home.
Because let's be honest, St. Louis as the second wild card put out Atlanta, who really had a better record.
Yeah, I didn't give Atlanta. I said I'll make it 3, and all at home, all in Atlanta. The team that deserves the home field gets it. But I would play 3 games at home.
Now you know what? There's some kind of fly in this ointment this week, where if the one went the distance, which it will, Oakland. There's something about their not knowing who they play, depending on who wins Yankees of Baltimore, which direction they're flying in. Yeah. So it's not all smooth.
Yeah, well, they have it, but they just don't know because you don't know who's going to win any series.
But yet they use travel as an excuse as to why they have to do it.
Was that the excuse they used?
Yes.
Okay, that doesn't make sense.